And we're live. Welcome back to the Nullify Take channel here on YouTube, where we've got the TNT takes for you on the Challenge World Championship Episode 7. I'm your host, Chris, and with me, as always, is Kahuna. Kahuna, how you doing?
Very good, sir. Very good. Just, having a good day on a Sunday, live again to discuss an amazing season of the World Championship. And, mate, I think it's kind of like easy like a Sunday morning is the phrase, but according to Casey in the challenge this week, backyard barbecue.
Backyard barbecue. I heard that, yes. It's great to be live. It's great to be able to engage with the audience. I know we haven't been able to do it too much this season. And as far as I'm aware, I do believe that the gang will be back next week on Reality Realness with 3S's to talk about the season as well. So keep an eye out for that. I believe it will be next week. You should see myself, Drew, and Chantal also back together doing a live as well. But Kahuna, this episode continues to deliver. We continue to see, I think, what is fast becoming one of the most entertaining seasons of the challenge because there is so much bad blood, because there is so much rifts. And I can't help but think, why has production gone backwards in choosing a USA cast with staples of the show that potentially could prevent there from being this friction and putting newbies in that I don't know if those newbies are going to challenge the vets like they have been on this season.
Well, we saw it like an amazing episode where the people at the bottom, which we've been saying for years is the strategy. If you're at the bottom, then you take out the people on the top, and they actually for once banded together and strategically did something like that worked out amazingly for them. So yeah, that's the sort of thing, and an amazing episode overall. And it's because of what you said, that there is this friction, there's this drama, then there's this new people wanting to do things differently, and to go back a step, or maybe back a step, we don't know how it's played out yet, but it feels like it anyway, after we're having such great vibes with this season and seeing that, it's called the challenge, and we've got people actually challenging,
the status quo.
The status quo, yeah. And that's amazing to see. So hopefully we still get it. I mean, getting Paulie back on and things like that could cause.
But if he goes early, early, then a lot of the drama will go with that. And I've got a fear that he's going to be thrown in early as well that season. So I don't know, but there's some potential. I don't want to be all doom and gloom. We haven't even seen that season play out yet. But I just feel like the producers are scared of putting people like this on the show back to back. But I could be wrong. Chris, welcome to the live stream here, saying that this was an amazing episode. And I do agree with you, Chris. We start off early on with these bottom dwellers, the people that are at the bottom talking to each other, Kellyanne and Jody, who I've been low on this season, and they've had to make me eat my words because I was like, what are they doing? I don't feel like they've got a chance. But finally they decide that they're not going to throw each other down there and they're going to work together because they've been at the bottom. Now, obviously, this is, in my opinion, the perfect recipe after many seasons of Darrell also being blindsided by people that he's trusted. He's an OG, he's a legend, but people have blindsided him and have worked against him in the main show. Maybe he's just been blindsided enough, like in this episode where he was like, I'm open for business. I don't need to protect the Tories of this world. She's never looked out for me on the main show.
It's true. In fact, I if you listen to Bananas has his own podcast. He had Jordan on this week, and he gave some really interesting insight when you talk about Darrell being blindsided. Bananas said that in that whole process, he actually went and approached Darrell, and Darrell all season to Bananas has been, you don't talk game with me, you don't talk strategy, blah, blah, blah. And Bananas came to him and said, hey, look, this is not my choice. It's where the votes are going, but I'm giving you a heads up. Your name's going to come up as one of the numbers, right? And Bananas thought he was doing a respect to Darrell, or showing him respect at Darrell. And Darrell, apparently, according to Bananas, knew at the time that the votes were going to go on Bananas and Justine, and Darrell didn't return the favor. He didn't say anything back to Bananas. No, absolutely. He did the right thing. But when you talk about him being blindsided by, he doesn't, even though he is a vet, longer than any of these guys, 4-time back-to-back
He's
champion.
the real OG. He's the real OG, man, on
absolutely.
The show.
They do not show him the respect that he deserves. And he took
and they
it.
Haven't for a long time. Let's not forget, Bananas was on a season with him very recently and did not have his back. So Darrell does not owe him anything. And Bananas being salty, give it to me. I love it.
Yeah,
and I love Bananas as well. Don't get me wrong. But I do think Bananas have had things go his way for a very long time on the show. And in recent seasons, there are new kids on the block who want to take the crown. If you're the guy with the 7 titles, you've got 7 rings, people are coming for those rings. They want it, So it comes with the territory. People are not going to lay over and just give the game to Bananas. But in my opinion, Darrell did the right thing because by him saying, listen, I don't want to work with you the whole season, you're not a number for me. You coming to me and telling me, hey, heads up, you're going to go in. You're not helping.
Do anything. Yeah.
What can you do for me?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it could have given him a chance to scramble, but his plan was already locked. It didn't actually add anything to Darrell at all. But it certainly made Bananas salty, which is an added bonus for sure.
The one thing we do know about Darrell, and especially in this episode, he is flexible. He is willing to work with other people. He said, I've got no problems with Jody. I've got no problems with Kellyanne. I'm ready to ride with them, and I can go to the end. And obviously, what a lot of people I feel like missed out on as well is I think that the loyalty between Darrell and Amber is so strong. Like Amber looks, when you say about people that don't give Darrell the respect, I feel like Amber gives so much respect to Darrell, and she's like, Darrell is the reason I won my first season. Even though I think it was a 50-50 between her and him and CT, I do think she gives a lot of the credit for how she played socially in the game to Darrell because he was her mentor. So when they lost Darrell, they lost Amber in the process as well. So they lost 2 votes. And that's why we didn't even get to see much about why Amber and Troy decided to stick with the outsiders. But that's the reason, right? They were always going to vote together.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And like at the same time, whether, it's hard, we still, 7 episodes in, it's still getting our head around, is it a country thing? Is it a team thing? Like,
it's not a country thing.
It's not a country thing. Yeah, absolutely. It's not. So like there's that element of like Kiki doesn't even have the same loyalties to Emily and all that sort of thing. But yeah, Darrell's gonna, make Darrell decisions, and I like that. I like that a lot.
Early part of this episode, I did like the Bananas Tory segment. Bananas hiding in the closet while she's talking to Justine and saying, hey, maybe you should just be a better partner. And it was a fun moment. That was Bananas being Bananas. And I feel like in recent seasons, Bananas have taken himself and the game too seriously. And sometimes, he didn't take the last finale very seriously, but I feel like strategy-wise to get to the finale, strategy-wise to get to the finale, I feel like sometimes he takes that part of the game too serious. This is the fun moments that I actually like seeing of Bananas. This is when he makes good TV because there's been times where you kind of forget that Bananas can be entertaining.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And like it opened the episode with him and Justine on a swing discussing, how they're going. So as soon as I was like, oh, Banana's getting a bit of shine here after a pretty lackluster season as far as confessionals and highlights and that sort of thing goes. So I was like, oh, he's either going to go in or he's going home. And so it was interesting that he started getting a little bit more. I was like, something's going on here. So yeah.
Chris says Bananas tries too hard to be funny nowadays. It isn't natural. He's just old and dull now. That closet thing wasn't funny. I found the closet one to be like fun and innocent. But what I have been finding weird was seeing this old guy flirting with this young girl, Justine, the whole time. And it felt awkward throughout. Like, I don't know how you felt about it, but every time I saw it, I was like, this just doesn't feel right to me.
That's Bananas' thing, though, isn't it? He's all the young.
Yeah, but now he's the old guy doing it.
Yeah. It is. You know what I mean? It does give you the heebie-jeebies a little bit.
like it feels like Bananas has been stuck in a time machine, and in his mind, he's still 25. Like
Peter Pan. Peter Pan syndrome. Yeah,
in his mind, not outwardly, but in his mind, he's like, I'm still 25.
Yeah, the boy that never grew up.
Yeah. We also get a scene here early on with Danny doing his run, saying he feels very uncomfortable. Ben feels uncomfortable. They kind of set us up for this dynamic within Team USA where we get a feeling that we know something's going to come, by the end of this episode because Danny's uncomfortable. He doesn't enjoy the game currently. And it's funny because I was thinking to myself, Danny's not enjoying the show at the moment. So maybe it's like a mutual thing why he's not coming for the Challenge USA, where he didn't enjoy his experience out there this time. And also the producers maybe felt like he was a troublemaker because he was going against the powers that be and the hierarchy within the game. I feel like it's a little bit of both. But it's like sad because if Danny ever listens to this, Danny, I've loved seeing this fire from you this season. Maybe you didn't enjoy it personally, but I just want to thank you for making a very, very entertaining season.
Yeah, word for sure. Danny, what I'm worried about is if your theory is correct, that production doesn't like the pushback or doesn't like the standing up to them and all that sort of thing. I do worry that he might get edited badly as well, because I've heard a little bit coming through in different things where even though we love that he's challenging and pushing and standing up for himself and not just playing the same old easy game that everyone does and concede to the legends, people are starting, I think it's going to be like he's whining a lot. It's like it's coming across maybe in the edit over the next couple episodes, if it's continuous, like non-stop whining, that might put a bad light on him. I hope the edit doesn't do that to him, because he is giving us these amazing confrontations and amazing storylines so far. You just said it's one of the best seasons we've seen in years, and Chris said on the chat that it's the best episode as well, an amazing episode, and a lot of that is due to the fact that there's this conflict and there's this friction, and we love seeing it play out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very interested to see how they're going to edit him. There were rumors, and I kind of tried to talk to Nasir about that when he was on the podcast for Survivor. There were rumors, and Nasir didn't go into it because Nasir and apparently Danny are good friends outside of the game as well. And,
Right.
and there were rumors back then that Danny was upset with production, even in Survivor, when they did the Earn the Merge, and there was like a immunity challenge. Half of them won immunity, which he was one of them, and then they were like, haha, game's on you, we're changing it, you don't have immunity with the hourglass twist. And he wasn't happy. He was like, what the hell is this? But I feel like all of us agree. So I mean, what I'm trying to say by this is that Danny is his own person. Like, he is not going to take BS from production, he's not going to take BS from anyone. But like we said a couple of weeks ago, I feel like production should be challenged to improve the game. They should look at this as like, how can we improve? Like, how can we be better? But I guess no one player is bigger than the show as a whole. And that is also like a balance that production has to have. But I really hope they don't do this, because I do feel definitely there's some old school challenge fans I don't think that likes Danny because of the fact that he is going up against some of their loved ones or the people that they love seeing out there. But then there's also, I've seen this whole new wave of challenge fans that are really standing Danny. And that's one of the things I've always said, Kuna. Me personally, I believe if someone is polarizing, even more reason to put them on the show. Because the people that hate them want to watch to see them fall, and the people who love them want to watch to see them win. So we need polarizing characters. Like, this is one of my frustrations with Survivor in the last couple of seasons, is that we don't get them. They just put likable people out there. Where's the unlikable person? Where's the person I can shout against?
Imagine if Danny was on this season of Survivor with all the twists and stuff. You'd be like, what is happening? I mean, we've seen in this episode with Danny's stance on I don't have to do this if it's not in the rules. This is not how we do things normally. It doesn't really work with gameplay. He's a professional athlete that played by rules, right? And what we saw in this episode was when we've now had clarification on what happens on a stalemate, right?
Yeah.
They all know exactly what the rules are. They all know exactly what's going to happen, and it allowed them to play and actually like we talk about on the Survivor one. Let the players play, right? Let the survivors and what we saw in this episode was when they actually do, and production with MTV, or at least the challenge, being a lot more willing to step in and change things and maybe put their little bit of extra weight on the table that shifts things the way they want. We saw an episode today. Maybe there's different stuff in the edit we didn't see, but what we saw an episode this week was they knew the rules, they knew the parameters they're working with, and they gamed it out and actually saw a strategic move that worked out flawlessly, right? And you see when production steps out, actually lets them do their thing, this is the result we get, right? And maybe Jeff Probst should watch this episode.
Someone should clip that and tweet it at MTV Production or the Paramount Plus team that does the challenge, because I agree. Like, if the rules are clear to the players, you get to see strategy. And it's not just this random mess out there. And that's why Kellyanne is suddenly stepping up. And I'm like, wow, where's this Kellyanne been for the last 3 or 4 seasons she's been on the challenge? Because I've not seen her. Yeah. But this was her coming out episode for sure. I do want to go back and read a couple more of the comments that came in. Chris says that he was still with Mariah while he was filming World Championships. Makes the flirting even grosser. I agree. Oh. And like, why cheat on Mariah? Mariah's stunning. But again, another person with a strong personality, probably too strong for Bananas, because he wants to be the boss in the relationship. Like he said to Justine, thank you for allowing me to play the game for you. That's what he said to her this episode.
Yeah.
The great Bananas. Deanna Bean saying Bananas has been trying to play the quiet game for the last 2 seasons and it's boring and forced. I agree. He's lost it. Chris says, I 100% believe Danny called out production during that Earn the Merge thing. Danny isn't afraid to speak his mind, and I love that about him. I think we both agree with that.
Yeah.
Before Danny Cab, welcome to the live. So great to be live and actually have some comments coming in that we can talk to as well as we go through this episode. Now, lastly, before we go into the daily, we had this section with Amber playing a bit of a psychiatrist or a relationship counselor, and she
Dr.
had
Phil.
Theo and Dr. Phil. She had Theo and Kaz talking about their previous relationship. Do you think there's still feelings there, Kahuna? Do you think there's still something going on there? I feel like Kaz kind of likes him a little bit still.
Yeah, I got the uncomfortable feeling that it might be a little bit more one-sided. I didn't like Theo saying, she's got a chance to prove her loyalty to me here. Like,
Yeah, like what's that?
Oh, dude, maybe you should try to win her back. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, they're probably both prizes, really. They're amazing people and they're stunningly good looking, both of them. But I felt like, Kaz is like, maybe
I've got a
coming to the
crush
table
on
a little
Theo
bit
and
more.
I'm straight. Like that's how good looking he is. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
and he probably knows it. He probably knows, like, he's tall, he's this giant,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting scene. I just have to ask myself, why do we keep seeing Kaz and Theo's relationship come up? Is there going to be a point where they're going to have to go head to head? Like, I kind of feel like it didn't happen this episode, but is it setting up for, is this a Romeo and Juliet tragedy playing out in front of us?
Well, they even played up when the actual votes were made, and they played up the Kaz being, I don't want to go against Theo and all that, like it was ever going to happen when Emily's making the decision. So
Hey,
I don't.
Hey,
I don't
Chantel,
know.
Reality Realness in the live here saying that Kaz was not happy with Theo on X on the Beach too. Obviously, this is where I need my Chantel info because I don't watch X on the Beach. So this is a huge turnaround. So there you go.
Yeah, and it seemed like it was much the distance. Like with that thing in movies where there's some romantic reunion or at a reunion at an airport and the two people run towards each other in slow motion.
Yes.
I really got the vibe that Theo was just standing still and Kaz was the one slowly coming towards him. I hope Theo warms up, but maybe he's just keeping it a little bit casual or protecting himself, knowing that in this game you can't be Tory, right? Like he might have to cut her. What if they get thrown into an elimination like could have happened this week? Maybe he's just kind of doing a mental thing where I'm not going to go all in this. Maybe after the season, I don't know. But there's definitely a vibe where one was a little bit more enthusiastic than the other.
Definitely. Joanne, welcome to the live. So great to have you here as well. Willie saying Theo and Cass's storyline are very interesting. Reality Realness, if you're still in the live, let me know. Are we still on next week? Like, are we doing this thing? Are we getting the band back together? To put you on the spot here on the live, because I told the live I think next weekend is the weekend we do it, but I'm flexible if it has to be a weekend after that as well. But just let us know. Is something going to happen on the Reality Realness channel? I'm putting the pressure on you. Going to the daily challenge. This was at the Castle of Good Hope, or in Afrikaans we say Kasteel Goeie Hoop, which is where this was taking place. So it's a Dutch castle. It was actually one of the first castles that they had in South Africa, I believe, towards the end of the 17th century. They built this castle. So those tunnels that they went into going below there, I was like, these are some damn ass old tunnels that are like 300, 400 years old. I hope somebody safety tested it before they went down there.
I love that, we got Chantel to give us the X on the Beach stuff, and we got Chris to just give us South African historical monuments and things like that. And the fact that there's a Dutch castle, according to Bananas, would be great for the Australians. It's the language they speak.
Yeah, they should have felt right at home.
This challenge is weird. Like for me, it's that funny because I like the variety and the fact that it was a challenge that, first of all, when I was watching, I was like, I think Zara's probably thanking God that she didn't have to do this challenge. Thank God I didn't drink that drink.
Dark.
Yeah. Well, the maths, remember?
The maths as well.
Yeah, she would have been freaking out. So I was like, Zara's not here. Lucky for her. But maths, I like mixing it up because it's just not always the same thing over and over again on physicality. And you need that thing where it can even out for some of the teams that might be physically weaker but more mentally stronger, or whatever the case may be. So that's good. The way it kind of played out, though, sometimes maths problems on TV is just a little bit boring for me. Like, it is funny.
I did like how this one played out, because it wasn't the whole challenge, the whole daily wasn't just about the math equation that they had to do at the end. It was visual in the fact that they had to go down these tunnels. And what made it interesting was seeing the different strategies that people employed going down there. Like, I mean, as soon as Danny and Ben went down there, it's like, you know, their partners, Casey and Tori, said, will they kill each other down there? Will they actually come out? Or will they work together? And they had to choose to work together right off the bat and help each other. So for that nanosecond, there was a bit of loyalty there. And it's interesting because it comes back into play towards the end of the episode, where there is a choice for Ben to like betray the Danny side of it, but he doesn't really go after Danny. He only goes after Sarah towards the end of this, even though he doesn't trust Danny. So I kind of like this frenemy relationship that they have. And not only has Danny doesn't just have beef with the legends, he's got beef with his own. He's got beef with Survivor players out there as well. So maybe Danny is the problem, because he's got problems with everyone.
I'm sure production, it was completely random, of course. There was no way that having Danny and Ben go down
completely
was
random.
Planned at all. And I'm sure they were completely happy that as soon as they got down there, they decided to work together. That would have been like, damn it, why aren't they fighting in a tunnel? That's what we wanted. But that challenge as well, like being in the tunnel, I thought it would have been the perfect opportunity. I was waiting to see someone working together, but not working together, and go, there's 6 Australian flags, right? Just feed the wrong information.
I kind of felt like, personally, and this is a bit of a hot take, I thought you may have picked up on this yourself as well. I kind of have a feeling that Troy was trying to be sneaky down there, and he wasn't really helping Kaz, because when they were down there and they were looking, he just said, there's one there, there's one there. He didn't actually say, that's one Australia, that's one USA. So he was actually making it extra difficult on her to get the numbers right. But I think it backfired on him a little bit, because he was so bad at communicating with Kaz. Maybe she wasn't great at communicating back with him, and they had to go down twice. So they were the one team who I feel like did not work together from the start. And we know Troy is sneaky. And I can't wait to have Troy, because Troy has said he will come on the podcast when the season's over to talk to us. So I can't wait to talk to Troy and ask him some of these questions.
Yeah, I got the same vibe as well, because I was waiting for it to happen. But again, cheating on the podcast, I know, but because I listened to the Jordan and Bananas one, Jordan actually said what went wrong, because Bananas were like, what actually happened? How did she not even get the right number of flags? And Jordan said he thinks what happened is they weren't actually, Troy didn't try to sabotage her, but when they got back to the board, the order in which they were communicating, he didn't say Australia 7, he didn't say Argentina 5 or whatever. He just said 7, 6, 5, 4, right? And Kaz had the order differently. So she actually flipped Argentina and Australia on the board. So even though he gave her the right numbers, she transposed them, which messed up the entire thing. Yeah. So that's what Jordan said. But I'm hoping when you get Troy on, he's going to go, nah.
Yeah, because I feel like something was up, and I think Chris said here, I thought the same thing. Troy definitely was not actually helping Kaz. I just feel like Troy in his own season of the Challenge Australia was so good at communicating. Why was he suddenly bad at communicating in this episode, like with his partner down there? But it didn't really make sense for a lot of people to sabotage down there, because your destiny was tied to the other team being down there. So the quicker you could get through the math equation, the quicker you could do it and get out of there, the faster time you would have. So if you kind of screw each other down there, it doesn't make sense. But it'll be interesting to see.
The thing with it being head-to-head, right? All you need to do is make sure that you beat that one team. Then you're not the slowest. Exactly. Right? Yeah. So as long, like, you can go, I'm not working with you. I don't care how long it takes me, as long as I beat you. You know what I mean? Like, because then I'm not last, you're last. And maybe there's another team that's going to be slower. So there was the chance that they could have gone down and go, nah, let's do it ourselves. Because as long as we're racing each other, I can guarantee that I'm not going to be the last one.
Yeah, but at that point, and again, we don't know the order that they went down there. Benya already failed, right? So they knew they just needed to finish it to not be last. So I don't know if that would have been the case. Just quickly going back to the chats here. Reality Realness is saying, let's do it. So we're on. Joanna saying, yes, please, for us getting back together and talking about it next week. Also, Willie saying, Danny is trying to make this season very exciting, which is working. Totally agree. We love Danny on here. Christina, welcome to the live. Always good to see you in the live as well. Jacob, welcome back to the live, saying Danny is delivering the drama this season, and I agree. I'm loving it. Was hoping for a hip check.
Yeah, just through the decrepit old walls, someone just goes straight through it.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's crazy that they went down there, and I can imagine the smell wouldn't have been great. Like I remember Sarah going down first, saying like, "What the hell is that smell?" Seeing the spiders down there and everything. And they also made sure to give them like these little glow sticks that did not light up a big area, so they had to like really look for these different things. But I liked it overall. Obviously, towards the end of this, we do see that Kaz and Jordan also times out. Kaz couldn't get the math done in time. And
I love how Jordan goes, she asked me what 6 times 7 was, and that's when I knew we were in trouble.
Yeah, like
you know what else stood out? My favorite bit from the entire episode was when Jody and Theo were tied up waiting, and Jody's like, "Oh, I hope you come out." And Theo's like, "Maybe you just don't believe in your partner enough," which is a great line. And then Jody goes, "Do you want me to kick you in the nuts?"
I think I can reach over there or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So great. Like Theo
Theo's
again
cheeky.
being funny and charming, and then Jody giving it right back to him is perfect. I loved it.
Yeah. I love the sass. And also the confessional between Danny and Tori, where Danny is like, "Maybe I'll just leave you up there." And she's like, "You want that, don't you?"
Yeah. That was good.
Great
At some point, Tori even said like, we'd probably be really great friends outside of the game. But in this game, we've got opposite things going on. And you see that little line again, like, "I'll leave you here." So good. Great
They've
episode.
just got different people that they're trying to work with, which is not helping them. But no surprises here. Yes, winning a math challenge. You know, I feel like
he's using the half Asian side, you know, like
you can say it. You can say it. I can't, you know.
Unfortunately, my half Asian side is not the maths. It's like the bad driving.
Jeez. You're gonna get us in trouble here, Kuna.
Yeah, sorry.
No, but I was gonna say they didn't really show Emily solve the math, right? They didn't really show her solve the math. They showed
it was just yes, yeah.
Yeah, and they just said yes. Well, Troy afterwards, yes is crazy at math. So clearly, yes must have helped her a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree. I think I would have been okay with those. That seemed like pretty simple math. Before Daddy kept saying, "Tori looks so pissed off at all of her testimonials." Yeah, she's hating life, and I'm living for it. I'm loving the fact that she's not in control at the moment. And losing Bananas, what a big loss for her, because her and Bananas were trying to run the game together. Chris saying, "I thought the same thing." Troy, yes, I've seen that one, and that was all mental math from Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's insane. Like, just working it out in his head like that. We all know that. So Emily and Yes wins. We do go back to the house, and we get the whole Team USA segment where they all get together and talk about bringing the band back together, and then all of them saying that they don't trust each other. What a funny segment, just to see this Team USA thing. They know the Team USA is just like, you know, are we going to work together? We're not going to work together. I think a lot of them are figuring out that this is an individual game now.
Just the great edit as well, that it was like the confessional, like back to back to back. Justin's like, "Ben's so paranoid," and Banana's like, "I hate Sarah and Danny so much." Like,
I've never hated anyone in my life this much.
Yeah. And then Tori comes on and goes, "Team USA is a shit show right now." And they just showed it. Like there's the 4 teams trying to discuss what do we do here, and they cannot get on the same page. Then they just cuts to the confessionals where they're all just talking bad of each other. It was really well done. And Tori, as far as
I was gonna say, who's gonna talk about Tori's gameplay and strategy and Tori's plan taking control? Not it.
I'll talk about it. Look, I mean, if Tori's goal, and she said it was expressed there, Team USA strong. She said it to Ben and Casey. "Are you like you?" And they're like, "Of course we are." Yeah, right. But she said like, and she was right. Like, I think her strategy, if it was to keep Team USA strong, and they actually were truthful in wanting to be on the same page, she had the right strategy. It was just herding cats. All these people are not going to get on the same page, and there was no way. But if they could, absolutely follow Tori's plan, put Jody and Ben in again, and go from there. But I mean, the way they're showing it, the way they're just constantly feuding, the Ben and Casey thing from a couple of weeks ago, they wanted to get on the same page so it doesn't happen again. It happened again.
So much drama. I mean, Tori going over to Kellyanne last minute to try and get her to come in and work with them after Kellyanne has been an option the whole season. I didn't think was going to work well. I didn't think Tori had much of a relationship with Kellyanne to begin with, so I don't know if that was the right person to go and talk with her. But then again, Bananas has betrayed Kellyanne so many times, and she probably would have not listened to him even less. So they really were running out of options here. I'm wondering if the right person for them to go and talk to and get on their side would have been Darrell, who's actually played a season with them recently.
I mean, Kellyanne could have been the right option, just not via Tori and Casey, because you're right. Like, I mean, Tori and Casey, legends, Kellyanne, legend, but there's zero crossover, right? Have they been on seasons?
I don't think
together?
so. I don't think so.
So there's nothing there. I don't know what. And then, as you said, they did that to them previously at the start of the season. So maybe from the perspective of like, there's no bad blood history, like with her and Johnny and Bananas and things like that. Maybe it could have been a Sarah or a Danny approaching from a strategic point of view. Hey, we're new to this. I don't have any history with you. Let's do something. You know what I mean? Like, it could have been along those lines, but I think the poor choice was Tori and Casey giving her all the information, like giving way too much details to see what she could actually do with,
Hot take there from Willie saying Casey and Tori are barely legends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're one-time champions.
They might be. Tori probably will be.
Yeah. I mean, like, Tori probably, if she plays long enough, I think she can get up there. But I get the point. You again, there's a few people they kind of stretched a little bit to get them on this season, and they maybe should have called them the vets, which is what they call them every single season when they go up against the rookies,
Yeah.
But they don't want to call the vets and the rookies this season. Christina's saying Bananas and Tori are too used to people who follow. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. Tori's too used to it being. She plays the game on easy mode every season.
Yeah.
With a built-in alliance, with rookies coming into the game that are not used to playing strategic, competitive reality TV shows that will just follow them. So coming up against people like this who are thinking for themselves, and also just who would have expected Kellyanne to finally show us something? Because I've had Kellyanne as one of my top picks for 2 seasons in All Stars, where I was like, man, I think she's bound to win one. And then every time she's kind of like just sat back and let people use her as a pawn in the game. And this time she was like, no, I'm not going to be a pawn. Maybe Kellyanne was inspired by these MVPs playing a game for themselves. And she's looking at this and she's like, I'm not going to let Danny and Sarah be these big strategic players on their own. I'm also going to be a big player. I'm a legend. I can do this.
You know what that says to me? Like, I mean, she didn't have a choice. Right?
No.
She was constantly thrown down. You need to do something. Like we see on Survivor. Yeah, we see on Survivor, we're like, you need to vote them out. They're going to get, like, what are you doing letting them go through more and more tribals, right? In this one, like, it's not like, she turned on some big thing. She was at the bottom and she tried to get off the bottom. And that's what you need to do. So, I mean, kudos for her for actually making it happen and actually working. But, like, I wouldn't have expected anything less, because otherwise, what's she going to do? Just wait to get picked off again?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you can't blame her. Like, you have to do something. So it's not like I'm like, oh, thank God someone finally did something, because she had to do something, but she did something the right way and it actually worked. And for me, that's where the kudos goes.
This was her move.
Yeah,
let's be clear about it. This was her move.
Absolutely.
Like if this was Survivor and she got to the final tribal council, this could be the move that wins her the game. Like, this was that level of a strategic move, pulling the carpet underneath the power structure that is currently in the house, that have thrown them in week in and week out, and looking out for the outsiders, the people who don't have any clarity. And this is bad gameplay from those at the top that are not pulling these people in. And maybe it is because of that strategy, like Banana said, that normally you don't think ahead. You don't think a couple of weeks ahead and plan your way to the end. You just play it week by week and you just keep some people close. Maybe that is the problem. Maybe that's a flaw in Banana's strategy that is sort of coming out here. And some of the vets, like I said, I think they're used to playing it on easy mode and things just working out. Like Christina says here, Bananas has been spoiled in the past by Leroy being close. Kellyanne has become my queen. I don't hate that, Christina. I don't hate that at all. I think she is a queen after this week. Now, let's talk about, you said you couldn't blame Kellyanne for making this move. Let's talk about a duo that I think is going to cop a lot of heat going into next week. Maybe one of the two won't even make it to the end of the week because we see them being in some issues with medical stuff going on. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But
Mm.
Ben and Casey, they had a big move to make here when it came down to the stalemate, and they were at the end.
Yeah.
Did they make the right move, Kahuna? Did they make the right move turning on Team USA?
I mean, Yes and Emily had the decision. Would they have put them in out of everyone if going to stalemate again?
I feel like Ben was fearful. I think Ben, for some of the reason, Ben does not trust Sarah and Danny this season. I feel like I missed something because they were working together in the Challenge USA. And Ben and Sarah had this very tight relationship outside of the game. You know, they formed this very strong friendship in Survivor Winners at War. And suddenly that's just gone out of the door. And he's willing to put a name in down to go into the arena. It's crazy to me. I feel like personally between you and me, Kahuna, I feel like that Ben was fearful that if Emily had to make the choice, she would listen to Sarah and Sarah may tell her to put Ben in. I think that was his fear.
Well, I mean, in the chat, you can see Lauren K called me out and said Emily said she would 100% vote in Ben and Casey. So there you go. Then Ben absolutely made the right decision.
Because Sarah was in Emily's ear the whole time saying that Ben can't be trusted.
In that case, then they made the right decision.
They made the right decision.
Yeah,
they had to.
Absolutely. You do not want to go against Jordan in elimination.
But did you notice, like, because I watched the episode twice, did you notice that Casey looked like she had, like, tears in her eyes when they had to make the move against them? Casey looked like she was really struggling with this.
Man, I really hate just going back to the same well again, but the Bananas and Jordan podcast, they said they went through the votes multiple times again this episode. And it was like the same thing over and over again. And they kept making them vote again to not get a stalemate. But apparently they were, and everyone around just kept going the same thing over and over again without changing until that's why it was kind of on Ben and Casey to and why it was hard because they didn't want to break it. But yeah.
All right. So they had a stalemate more than once. And then
I think that's what he said. Yeah. Or maybe he was talking about last week's episode. I kind of got a bit lost, but they said that there was a push around and they had to go through multiple times before they finally broke the stalemate. So,
yeah, Lauren agrees with you. Right move made. Before Danny kept saying, I still don't know why Sarah and Danny are trying to get Ben and Justine Bananas out. It just weakened the American team. Yeah, I think that there's just this thing, right, where Bananas is a 7 times champion and Danny doesn't want to go up in a finale against the 7-time champion or a 3-time champion in Jordan, right? He doesn't want to go up against those guys if he doesn't have to. We haven't seen much of his interactions with Darrell, but what I'm finding hard to understand at the moment from a Danny perspective is like, who's his, like outside of Sarah and Theo being probably the team that's the closest to them, who else does he have in his pocket? Like who's the other guy Danny wants to see next to him in a finale right now? Is it Troy? Like we haven't seen him and Troy talk. Grant's out of the game now, and that makes me a bit fearful because I don't know. I think Grant leaving the game has been very damaging to Danny's game at this point.
I mean, when you talk about going to a final that you're going to run against, maybe he wants a Ben Ha? You know, maybe he wants like people that like even having Grant next to him. Yeah, he's your mate, and you want to go far to the end, but you want to go against people that you can beat, right?
He could beat Grant. I think he could have beaten Grant. Like,
I'm not saying he couldn't. I think Danny could probably beat pretty much any. Maybe I think Theo would be a very, very good match. But I mean, really, if Danny's thinking about that end game, he should be looking at Theo and Sarah. To be honest with you, like that's going to be a tough.
They're tough. They're tough. But I mean, the one thing I think counts for a lot, and we saw it in the elimination. We'll talk about the elimination in a bit. Is you have to think to yourself, who has been in these clutch situations multiple times, so they know what to expect. Like someone like Bananas that have run in so many finals and have won so many finals. Jordan's hit rate in the final being like 70% or high 60s for winning finals. That's dangerous. And these, like he's got one final, yes, and it will make him better for the experience. But when you run against someone that has done multiple finals, you're at a severe disadvantage just because they will beat you with experience more so than natural athletic ability or, you know, what's up there. So I do think the right move is to look against those experienced players, but you also need to get to the finals. I think Danny just trusts himself enough where Tori's saying, well, we've got a safer path with Jordan. Let's keep working with him because he will not vote us in and we will get there. Danny's thinking, that's great, but do I beat Jordan in the final? I would rather take him out and then run the risk that I will get thrown in there and then I have to beat someone at an elimination. I think he's just backing himself that if he does get thrown into elimination, he'll come back.
Well, that's the interesting thing. Like you said, winning the finals is one thing, but you have to get there first, right? And Jordan actually said something really interesting because Kellyanne had that thought process of, I don't know about you, but I don't want to keep the good teams around, right? I want to, and which makes perfect sense, right? Jordan's attitude, he said, and this was again on the Bananas podcast, he said, I wanted to keep the veterans around. I want to keep because I want to get to the end because I know me and Kaz. I know that me and Kaz, no matter what, if we get there, we're winning. I can beat every single person in that house in a final, and I know that Kaz is able to run with me. So I don't know if that was like maybe secret spoilers or I don't know. But Jordan said, "I'm keeping the people I'm keeping because I don't care when I get to the final. I just need to get to the final first."
Yeah, but it's Jordan.
Yeah,
it's Jordan.
I know. That's what
like Danny's not Jordan. Is what I'm trying. So you're making my case for me because that's like Jordan. If you're Jordan, like there isn't many people. I mean, Jordan nearly won a final running with Anissa. Like, I mean, the guy is superhuman. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like who said it here in the live earlier? Someone said that Jordan ran a final on a. Hey, here we go. Jacob said Jordan also won a final on a busted leg against Derek and CT. Like, who does that? Like, you don't want that guy in the final. Yes, he can beat everyone. It's not like we know Jordan can beat anyone. He doesn't care who he's running against. But that's not Danny. Everybody's got to play the game with the capabilities they've got. Now, I'm not saying Danny couldn't become Jordan. He could. But it takes time. Like, it takes winning and running multiple finals to have the same level of confidence in your own ability and what is going to get thrown at you in a final. And I think that he has to play the game for him and Tori for right now.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's what I'm backing up your point that you're maybe Danny doesn't have people in his pocket. Jordan doesn't need to. Jordan's like,
he doesn't care.
Yeah, he doesn't care. Like he wants to have people in his pocket to get him to the final because that's the goal for him. He knows once he gets there, he's got a good shot. Danny isn't thinking of the current. He's thinking about the long game. When the short game could be what actually trips him up because you're right. His alliance is getting smaller.
Yeah. Let's bring up a comment here from Willie, which is an interesting one. Willie says, the only obstacle with Danny wanting Jordan out is Tori. She is so focused on her personal relationships. She's not thinking about the finals. And even in this episode, Tori going into soccer mom mode, really encouraging and shouting for Jordan. Obviously, her and Jordan had that experience. Was in a total madness where they went from the bottom the whole time until I think it was total madness until the end where they both got thrown in and they were cheering each other on. It's just a natural thing for her to fall back into. I still feel like, this Tori-Jordan relationship, it's not done. Like there's some stuff going on there, especially from Tori's side. We saw that in 38 as well.
I wish it was done as far as TV goes, to be honest with you.
At least they're not focusing on it in the same way that they did on 38. Like it's a little bit toned down, which is good. I don't know if I could have handled 2 seasons in a row.
Yeah, I'm the same. This is like, it's okay. And I think it's because we just come off such intense Jordan Tori in Ride or Dies that even just if this was a standalone season and Tori's like, I want to protect Jordan because, we're close. That's what people do every season. Like they want to protect their friends, but it's because of last season that we're like, oh, Tori, Jordan, all right, we get it, like that sort of thing. So
yeah, Christina here says that Darrell has lost 2 finals and got eliminated early in recent seasons, so maybe he's now seen as a bit of a lesser threat when it comes to someone that could, but I do think Darrell could still shock people. Like Kiki is capable,
especially with the Kiki. Yeah, for sure.
Kiki is capable. So like Darrell's also been unlucky with some of the people he's been partnered with, I feel like, in recent times. But Kiki is not going to hold him back. Kiki is actually pushing him, which I'm loving at this point. So, people may sleep on Darrell, but I do think his legacy is a little bit in, like his recent, like you can't take away the championships he's won, but in recent seasons he's not been as consistent. Like he's the opposite of CT, who just got better and better as the older he got.
The partner thing is really fascinating because it's make or break, right? We saw Jordan with Anissa just in 38 meant that he was out. He probably would have won that with a better partner. And Darrell, I think, is always going to be a strong performer, not the best, but consistent and good enough to get there if he's got a partner that can go with him and not. He's not the type that will carry. Right, he's not going to carry a team across the line against all like what Jordan could do, what a CT could do. He needs that partner to run with him. And Kiki is 100% that partner. So I'm excited to see what they could do.
Darrell, for me, is like the guy I'd like to hang out with, like, all the time. He just oozes cool. Like, he's just a cool guy.
Yeah.
But when it comes to my TV show, I've just learned in recent seasons, he's not the strategy, drama creating type of person. Like, he's really, I'm just going to go in there. I'm going to hope that the cards fall right for me, and then I'm going to win it. But it was actually cool to see him for once make a strategic decision here in this episode that benefited him.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
So that was good. Obviously, he was in danger, so he had to do something. But still, like, it's good to see him make a choice. Ryan is saying that Danny is playing the game to win, not to make relationships for following seasons. I agree. I don't think in Danny's mind he's worried about coming back, even though I would love for him to come back. And I hope he does come back in the future. And I hope production allows for him to come back and that they're not afraid to bring him back because of the fact that he's willing to go against their favorites. Before Danny Cap says on Bananas podcast, Jordan said that when he heard her telling him to focus on details, he said, that's when I knew she still loved me. So there's still something there. Yep. 100% think there's still something. Kiki is awesome. I hope they make it to the finals. Yes. Love Kiki. Kiki was my first pick in the draft and she's still going strong. Unlike other first picks I've had in Mr. West Bergman and now also losing Bananas back to back. It's hurting.
I mean, look at the 3 weeks in a row. Grant, Wes, Bananas. Like, that's some big hitters there. Oh, Janae, Janae, Grant, Wes, Bananas. Huge 3 weeks for sure.
Before Danny Cap says Amber and Darrell were good partners on their season. Yeah, listen, I love Amber. The thing is, what I'm trying to say is, like, Amber that season was, and funny enough, she obviously became a champion that season, but it was her first season in. And I think if you had to compare Kiki in her current state versus Amber, I think Kiki is, as much as I love Amber, I think Kiki is a killer. Like, she's another level. Like, Kiki should become a main, like, I'm here for Kiki to become the main person on the main show. Like, I'd be very happy to see Kiki come into the MTV Challenge 39, especially if Australian Challenge doesn't have a second season. Then we need to get some of these Australians over to the US franchise, I think, because there's potential there.
From your lips to God's ears, Chris, Troy and Kiki all the way.
100%. I just want Troy to get more airtime. I feel like he's been very under-edited this season, which is not a good sign. I'm really worried about that. All right, so we talked about the stalemate. Let's talk a little bit about the arena. So they had to go. Firstly, they had to make a choice of who was going to go down there. And it's
not
interesting.
Really.
Not really a choice. They're always going to put Bananas and Justine to go down there. It was never going to be Sarah because we knew Emily wasn't going to put Sarah and Theo down there because of the relationship. And again, this is why I know a lot of people don't like Sarah for some other reason. I'm a supporter of Sarah. I will continue to be one. I think actually Sarah's been very toned down this season compared to like the Challenge USA where she's running around, slitting throats and going nuts down there on the arena. Maybe it's because she hasn't been in the arena yet. We'll probably see that side of her come out as soon as she gets thrown out or betrayed. But this is why Sarah is a great game player because she is willing to make alliances across different teams and things like that. And it kept us safe in this specific spot. We do see the obvious choice being Bananas having to go up against Jordan. We know Bananas has won twice against Jordan, so Jordan had to settle his score this time around. But Bananas did extremely well. Like, it was a small little attention to detail that was the difference between him winning and losing. And also people helping on the sidelines and trying to get Jordan and Kaz to win.
So Bananas now came within a small attention to detail miss of winning last season. And now a small attention to detail miss, which he was winning both times, actually. The final, he would have won the entire season. He just didn't see the right brick. And then this, he didn't see the smile. And I don't
We lost
I don't know
Kona
if
at a
that's
key.
like being cocky or just like, too.
Sorry, we just lost you for a second.
Am I
Just
back?
just start again. You mentioned about the brick that made him lose the final.
Yeah, so it's two very close things back to back where he's winning. He's actually dominating physically, but just not paying attention to the smaller things has seen his downfall. And I think that's so cool of like, that like old cliche of like how elephants are scared of mice?
Yeah.
Like the GOAT, the 7-time champion, the biggest one in the history of thing, and a small like picking the wrong tile or the like missing the wrong brick.
Smile or sad face.
Yeah. Smile, sad face. That's all it is to bring the legend down. And I thought that was so fascinating. I also found it really interesting. And what's your take on this? That all we've heard about is how no one wants to run against Jordan. Do not run against Jordan. Even though Bananas is a 7-time champion, people think Jordan in a final is just as strong, if not stronger. But everyone is helping Jordan and Kaz over a Bananas and Justine, which I found really fascinating.
Well, it's been a thing for many seasons now, right? Where this is just part of the challenge. I've said this a few times whenever I've spoken to Drew and Chantel on the podcast. As a person who's coming in from the outside who loves fair competition, I don't like it when people on the sidelines help those down there because effectively you're going against the whole team.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the fairness of it because it's always been a part of the challenge. But on a personal preference, I don't like it. I want to see people go down there and figure it out themselves so that the true best contender wins down in the sand.
Yeah.
But at saying that, it was funny to see Bananas be annoyed at them at the end saying, "Oh, you guys always knew that." And then I haven't listened to it, but I've heard he's been complaining about it off air after the season. And it was funny to see Danny pull the receipts and bring his little, speech that he had about Michelle and Jay being upset about it when they were voted out and saying, oh, it's just part of the game. Deal with it. Know what game you're playing. He's a 7-time champion. He's played this game enough. He knows that's how it goes.
He does, but his thing with complaining was not that they didn't help him. He was saying, everyone was saying how bad it was when Michelle and Jay weren't helped, but where's the same energy when we weren't? Right?
Yeah.
When the legends are when he's not getting the help, everyone's happy with it. Everyone's cool with it. They're like,
I just think
great.
no one should get helped. I think no one should get helped. Like, I don't care if Bananas getting screwed or whoever gets screwed. I just don't think that. I feel like it should be like tribal council in Survivor, where the tribal council, the people who are under council, they can't talk on the jury.
I agree because there's been they could cheer. Right, they could cheer him on because that's part of the whole thing. Like when there's a big hit or there's something, you see the reactions. That's all part of it.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. But I agree because we've seen times where the person down in the arena or down in the sand is basically just like following instructions, where they're not even doing the challenge at all, just listening to the peanut gallery and not even having to think. Like at least this one, there was a little bit like. Yes, did give a very specific, no, not that blue, the other dark blue. That was way specific. Tori shouting attention to detail is not like.
Well, yeah, but I think the reason she didn't say
so she didn't tip off.
Exactly. I think, I don't know if it was just editing, but it was exactly when he had the same thing that Bananas got wrong, right? The Argentinian sun up there. And she was like, attention to detail. And then he threw it away, and then put the other one up. Because if she said, hey, it's the smile, Bananas would have been tipped off, and he would have probably known. So I think you have to be so strategic in when you help the team you want to help out there to win it. So yeah, it was interesting to see how it played out. Let's read a couple of the comments here. Chris says, Sarah has definitely toned down. I'm liking her more than I have in the past, but I do not stand her. That's fair. Before Danny Cap is saying, I want to see Sarah and Amanda or Ashley face off. That would be amazing TV, but I think Sarah is too mature for that. Yeah, I can see that. But I mean, I think that if you piss Sarah off enough, she could go down to that level. I really think she could.
She's an MMA fighter who is also a police officer who we know, have no problem getting violent with people.
Who could take Sarah on in the sand in a physical one? Jenny West maybe, but Jenny West has been beaten by Tori. Tori maybe.
I mean,
I don't know.
Depending on the challenge, right? Anyone could on the day. Like if it's a maths thing and she gets call outs from the crowd. It's all over. You know what I mean? Like, it just depends. I think
Sarah's
Sarah would have to be Yeah, I'm just saying if they get help in certain way, because it's not even just like they don't know what to do. Sometimes the people in the audience or the
Direct
other
them.
challengers, they have different angles. They
Mm.
have different vision, like, you know what I mean? Like, they might not be able to see on one side of a turning, you know, when they have like one player on one side of the wall and another player on the other side of the wall, and they have to do things where they can't see each other. A lot of the times they're getting the help that they might not be able to do, even if they're fully capable. And it's just because of different angles, different vision, seeing different things, and you've got multiple people shouting instructions. So Sarah could very well be overwhelmed by numbers, right? We see it when you said it's like when you go up against the whole team, it's very different. So there might be that, but I do think individually, standing on her own merits, Sarah has to be one of the best like people to go down in the sand. Maybe in the like top on the Rushmore for me. Even though we haven't seen much. How many times did she go down last in USA?
I think twice. But
I
I
think
will
she'd be
say,
more than capable. But yeah,
I will say, listen, I love Sarah. I think she's part of the Cops for Us, and for those that don't watch Survivor, that's like one of the most successful alliances. I think it's the most successful alliance actually ever to play in Survivor, because between the two of them, they've won 4 out of 4 seasons that they've competed in. So that's a pretty significant hit rate. But I do think that Sarah doesn't have the experience yet. So if she was to go against someone like a Laurel or a Cara Maria, or maybe even a Tori, someone with a lot of experience, like you said, there's a lot of ways where she could lose. But I think if she played enough, she's definitely, capabilities wise, she's up there 100%.
yeah.
I want to read a few more of the comments. Christina saying, what about Bananas comparing his side to the Avengers and the other side is the Little Rascals? Pissed me off, the disrespect. And that's probably on the podcast as well. I don't remember that on the show. Was it on the show?
I think it was last episode.
Right.
But he has done that. Yeah, he has done it on the show.
Lauren saying, I hope we get Challenge Australia too. I liked it more than the UK, USA, and Argentina. Well, I will tell you this, Lauren, if I find out anything through my network for Challenge Australia 2, I'll try and give you guys the inside scoop as soon as I can. I hope that there is a second season. I hope they don't give up on it. Reality Realness with 3S is saying, Jordan said that the way their boards were set up, he kept moving past the sun, and Banana's sun was on the opposite side, so he didn't move past it often.
Yeah, Jordan said he kept going up and down, and he'd see the sun right there and go, that frown looks really weird. There's no way that's right. I'm going to chuck it out regardless of if, like, I know there's going to be another one. We haven't found it yet. He didn't see 2 suns. He only saw one. But he said, I know it's wrong just by the frown. So there has to be another one out there, because he was just kept. He said, I was walking down and I looked at it and thought, oh, that looks weird. Who the hell puts a frown on their flag? And then he went, oh, it's wrong.
Yeah.
So
Benya's like, the Argentinian sun is always smiling.
Yeah.
Willie says, Bananas got mad. He lost when he did the same thing with Turbo and Tamara and Jay and Michelle. He just needs to let it go. And I think we spoke to that. We agree. Christina saying, Bananas believes he is the main character of other people's lives, and they should be grateful that he isn't. That's Bananas. Willie Lloyd, Bananas is not the main character, and CT, Wes are better main. Listen, I've always been pro Wes and CT as well, ahead of Bananas. But I do respect, there is a certain amount of respect that comes with having won 7 titles. You cannot deny that Bananas has been a big part of the show. And at one point, he was kind of carrying the franchise until CT took over. And Wes was definitely a part of that, because it was that rivalry between the two of them.
Yeah, and Bananas has played this really fine line balance of being the main character, but not necessarily being the hero. Sometimes he's the anti-hero, sometimes he's the villain, but he can step into that role. Like, we've seen him be the bad guy, like the whole Sarah thing and all that, and he owned it. He kind of stepped into it, and I think that's what makes him the main character, is that because he can be either. We saw a season, I can't remember which one it was, but a couple seasons ago, where he was always on the bottom. Maybe it was the Team Young Buck thing coming for him, but he just kept getting put into.
There's a few seasons until he won one. He was constantly, after he took Sarah's money, he was constantly in trouble.
Yeah, so he can play any role, and I think that's why he's the main character, because he can play the hero, he can play the villain, he can do anything in between.
Yeah, so Jenny West was beaten by Tori as a rookie. I highly doubt Tori beats Jenny in a headbanger now. I agree. And that's the argument, Christina, that I'm making. Like, even though someone's got this physical capabilities, like a Danny or like a Sarah, they don't have the same amount of seasonal experience when they're going up against someone that has played before. And that season, I was shocked when Tori B. Jenny. I did not see that coming. That was impressive to witness. Lauren is saying Laurel would beat Sarah. Yep. Final Reckoning. Yep, that was a season where he was constantly in trouble.
Yeah. Thanks, Willie.
All right, so I think that's all of the main points here for this episode. I did want to talk just briefly. How scared are you about going into next week, seeing that we may have 3 people down with some sort of an illness? Now, obviously, Amber we've known about for a while. Ben's not looking good. And then Tristan as well, not looking good. Do we think that they have the spicy cough? Is that potentially what's happening with them? Or what's going on here?
I mean, how far are we from Nathan? Before Nathan got medically evacuated, like, you know what I mean? Like, has it been going around the house? That'd be fascinating to see how if that's real. It'd be interesting to see how that plays out if multiple people are struck down with COVID at the same time.
And I'm going to say this. I'm going to be probably not going to, like, a lot of people are not going to feel like this is a surprise to them, because I've always been a supporter of Ben as well. And we haven't spoken enough of Ben in this recap, but I do feel like Ben is doing his part. He's doing his part. Like, he is like, I'm willing to go against Danny and Sarah. I'm willing to play my own game. I'm a winner of Survivor as well. You know, I can also do strategy. I don't like them running my game for me. So if you like Danny and Sarah, or you dislike Ben, you like either side of it, you can't deny that he's brought a certain element of entertainment to the show so far. And it's caused the rift, which has been great to talk about, and has spiced things up in the house. He left the first time he played with a injury. Now potentially going out medically evacuated as well in this season. I would really feel like Ben's story is unfinished, like, on the challenge. Like, I want to see him get through a season.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that's not the case. MTV or Bun and Murray, the production, always happy to drop some, you know, won't they? Like, we saw even this episode with the whole thing of Kaz and Theo being a potential that was never going to happen. So I'm hoping it's not multiple people. They're just dropping these hints because they didn't feel good and they completely recover. So let's, fingers crossed, knock on wood and all that. Because you're right. Any player in this game, I hate seeing go out for injury. I even hate it when it's like not game related injury. You know what I mean? Like when it's a sickness, like to be removed.
Being pregnant.
Being pregnant, all of that. I hate it. I hate it. So fingers crossed it doesn't happen. But I have a feeling it's not going to be all 3 in one episode, because that would be an absolute disaster. I don't even know what that does to a television production. Like, as far as, I mean, that's like what we said happened with the UK, with the Queen passing away and half the teams left. This would essentially nearly be, like, how many teams we got left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. A third of the entire thing going in one episode. I mean, then you're down to the finals. Like, that's the
only cloud in my mind that's hanging over the season being potentially one of the best, if not the best, is if we do see, a third of the cast leave for reasons that's not game related. That would severely suck. But Jacob here saying that I didn't like Ben when his season on Survivor first aired, but after rewatching that and watching the challenge, I like him now. And I think, Jacob, one of the reasons why a lot of people don't like Ben, and I continue to put that out there in the universe so people can is that the right word? Introspectively look at themselves and think about this, right? Mm-hmm. Is that I think people don't like Ben because of the fire-making twist. And you've got to ask yourself, is that Ben's fault? Like, is Ben to blame for the fire-making? No, it's production. And it has stayed since Ben, so a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people don't like the fact that he found a lot of hidden immunity idols, where I actually really respect it when people hustle and they know they're on the bottom and they want to do everything they can to get to the end. So I don't mind that. And then the third thing that people don't like is a lot of people thought that, who's the lady that went against Chrissy should have won the end of that season. But I saw stuff, and maybe you've seen this as well, Jacob, having rewatched the season. I saw stuff where she was being very condescending to people who ended up on the jury. And I think that the edit showed us that for a reason, because you don't want to vote for someone like that at the end. Not that I think she's a great lady outside of that. I don't actually have a problem with her, and I would have been very happy if she won as well. She played a phenomenal season. But my actual favorite that season was the fellow who ended up getting voted out before the final 3. I forgot his name now. I'm so bad with names sometimes, but I thought he played a stellar game that season. Had the long black hair. Kind of reminded me of like a younger Boston Rob type of character. But anyway, so I I just don't like Ben as much, dislike Ben as much as some other Survivor fans. I feel like a lot of people are blaming him for stuff that is outside of his control. And I think he's a good dude. Maybe a little bit like we're seeing his personality again this season, and we saw it in Winners at War. He can easily get agitated, and I think he could be a handful to try and deal with. But sometimes I like complex personalities like that. I've got a lot of friends that are very complex, to be honest with you, Kahuna, where you say the wrong thing, you might piss them off.
Gable vouches for him.
Gabler does, and yeah, I mean, obviously they've hung out outside of the show as well, and I'm sure that there would be a great connection there because Ben is a vet, and obviously what Gabler did with the money, so I'm sure that would have formed a pretty strong connection between the two of them. Let's move on. Before Danny Cap says, Banana said he was really sick the first few episodes, but his COVID test was always coming back negative. He probably gave it to everyone as a parting gift. Can you imagine?
That's great.
Lauren saying MTV has been posting little games with some of the cast members on the YouTube channel, and it's been nice to see Ben's personality. I've heard, again, I think he's got a really goofy personality. He's like a fun-loving guy, but I think he's very confrontational. So if you put him in a corner, he bites. He gets very confrontational. Devin, that's the one, Jacob. Thank you so much. I love Devin that season. I thought Devin... and in fact, I think it's been confirmed from memory, from podcasts, that if Devin made the final instead of Ben, Devin would have won. So even people thinking Chrissy should have won that season, people on the jury didn't like her as much as the fans did, because the fans saw what she was doing strategically. But it's that social game in Survivor is so important. Like making sure that people like you at the end. We've seen many people lose the game because they weren't like good with the people that they were voting out, and they struggled in how they managed that.
The good thing for Ben is that the challenge, it doesn't matter if people don't like you. You can still go down 1,000,000 times and come back every single time if you're good enough to come out of the sand. And then once you get to the final, there's no jury that says whether they liked you or not or enjoyed your game. It's just, can I get there first? And that's one of the good things about the challenge.
One last thing I wanted to talk about before we finish off here. Casey's gone against people that she's played the main show with for a long time. She kind of feels like she's a little bit on an island of her own. Do you think Casey cops any of this blame if she comes back for 39? Do you think that having gone against Tori and them on this specific episode, do you think she's good enough to mend things over?
Not even whether it's... I think she wouldn't even cop anything in this season. I think Ben's going to be the one that cops it.
And I think
she's quiet enough and doesn't rock boats enough for multiple years now that it's not like, I think Ben's already... We've seen the reputation talked about. We've seen everyone calling him paranoid, and he's out there. It's just going to be put down to a Ben thing, I think.
Yeah, Chris agrees with you.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I can't wait to see how that plays out. For everybody in the live, thank you so much for participating here in the conversation today. It was so much fun to talk to you. Obviously, I'll be live next week again with Reality Realness and Angel Cake on the Reality Realness channel. So make sure that you look out for that as we head into next weekend. If you got to this part and you're listening to this after the recording, please consider subscribing to the channel, hitting a like on it, putting the notification bell on so you can be notified next time that we go live. But for now, we're going to say good night to everyone. Enjoy your evening over there in the US, and we'll catch you guys next week. Bye.
Yeah.